Today is Yom HaAtzmaut, Israel Independence Day, or sometimes known as Israel's birthday. And both Rabbi Vann and I spent a year living in Israel as we studied to be rabbis. And so while we recognize that Israel can sometimes be a complicated place with complicated feelings, we both were able to spend a year gathering many, many favorites about Israel. And so we decided that in honor of Yom HaAtzmaut, we were going to share some of our favorites with you when it came to Israel. So I'll start and then we'll jump in. So I'm going to first start by sharing my favorite place in all of Israel, and that is the grottos at Rosh Hanikra. I love the grottos. So grottos are these caves that have formed by water erosion. And you can go there and you can visit and you can take both walking tours. And I think there's actually even sort of like a cable car tour, if I remember correctly. It's been a lot of years since I was in Israel, like over 20. But it is the most beautiful, glorious place. And anybody who knows me will probably find it very humorous that I've picked a place in nature, because it's not where I tend to be, but it is probably the most gorgeous place I've ever been in the entire world. It is cool, the water runs, and it is just absolutely beautiful. And there is just such a sense of serenity and peace there. So where's your favorite place in all of Israel?
This is so fun because we haven't shared these in advance. So my favorite place in Israel is not one single place. It's anywhere you can fully see a sunset. Because I feel that the sunsets in Israel are extraordinary and different no matter where you are. A sunset in Jerusalem sets the whole city alight because of the way it reflects on the Jerusalem stone. And a sunset in Tel Aviv is a sunset over the beach, and a sunset in the north is a sunset over the mountains. And it's just the amount of different light, the variety of light in Israel is unbelievable to me. So let's share favorite foods. So I have a lot of favorite foods in Israel, and to narrow it down is kind of crazy. And since I was recently there, what I have been like craving is an Israeli bagela with fresh za'atar. So there are these push carts or small stores, makholet, with these, not bagels like we know them. They're big circles, fresh, with sesame seeds on them. And they're made by small, probably in people's kitchens, with fresh za'atar. And za'atar is a mixture of spices, and they put it in a little piece of newspaper often, and you walk around eating this bread and this fresh za'atar while you're touring. And only in Israel. You can only get begelas in Israel. You cannot get them anywhere else. So I am craving a fresh bagela with za'atar. Believe it or not, it sounds disgusting, torn off and put in a little piece of newspaper.
Those are so delicious. And I will admit to that being my breakfast almost every morning, because there was one of those makholets on the way from my apartment to school. And I used to get one every morning, but that was not my favorite food in Israel. So there is this cafe in Israel called Aroma Cafe, which I always describe as if Starbucks and Panera had a baby, because it's got description. It's got the quality of food of a Panera and the coffee of a Starbucks, but they have a halloumi cheese sandwich. So halloumi cheese is like a hard, salty cheese.
You and your cheese.
I know. And you can fry it on a griddle and it doesn't melt. Like, it melts on the inside, but stays solid on the outside. So it's a grilled cheese, but they actually grill the cheese, not the sandwich. And then they put it on this yummy, yummy bread with lettuce and tomato, which are always so much fresher in Israel, and some kind of sauce that I have no idea what it's in because it's their special sauce. And it is the best fried halloumi cheese sandwich in all of Israel, I will go to the mat for that. And that is my favorite food in all of Israel is an Aroma Cafe halloumi cheese sandwich. So yummy. And
I'm
when I go to
starving.
Israel, and you can, Aroma is like, it's a local chain. So like an Israeli chain. So you can find them all over the country and I must get it at least 3 times, no matter how long or short my visit is in Israel,
Well, there's
because it's,
also the regalach from that, from Ben Yehuda, not from Ben Yehuda.
oh yeah, the chocolate rugelach from the market at Ben Yehuda. Oh, so good. But yeah,
Although I
so
like
there's
the
so many
cinnamon
foods.
regalach too.
Yeah. Okay, so the last thing we want to share with you is our favorite memory from any of our trips in Israel. So we've both been there
So
multiple
hard.
times. So I will go from my year in Israel, and that was that every week a group of us in my class would get together and do Shabbat dinner. And it was always a potluck Shabbat dinner. My job was always Israeli salad because I think I was the only classmate that had the patience to chop the vegetables small enough. But everybody would bring something, dishes and whatever. And we would all go to different synagogues for services because everybody had different preferences as to how they wanted to pray. And then we would meet up at somebody's apartment and we would sit and we would have dinner together. And then we always had this major song session. And it would start with like Jewish songs, and then it would end with like songs from our childhood, which based on the ages of my classmates was anywhere from like the 60s to the 70s to the 80s. And we would just sing. And we always ended, classmate of mine had a son named Quinn, and he was 1. And so we always ended, we knew it was over when we sang The Mighty Quinn. And that was how we ended. And we knew everybody, it was time to go home. And it was usually by that point, somewhere between midnight and 1 in the morning. And we had this like fabulous evening every Friday. And it's something I've never been able to recapture. And it's totally indicative of my year in Israel. And I miss so many of those people. And it was just this experience that we had every Friday that I've never been able to recapture.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm not going to share memories from the 2 trips that I've taken with the congregation because I don't want to pick favorites from those 2 because I don't want to upset anyone. Although I have extraordinary memories from those 2 trips that I treasure. So I will share a memory from my year in Israel when I was studying, and it's actually when my sister came to visit me. And it's very, very funny. So we were traveling together and she came rather early in the year and my Hebrew was and we wanted to go on the cable car in Haifa. I don't know if you remember, there's a cable car in Haifa, but I didn't know how to say cable car in Hebrew. And the operator, the cab driver, didn't speak any English. None, 0. And so I was really struggling to figure out how to get to these cable cars. And so I finally, our teacher said, just say whatever comes to mind, just figure out how to communicate, manage it. And so I told the cab driver that I wanted to go where the cars flew in the sky.
I love it.
And the cab driver was laughing so hard that he gave us the ride for free. And my sister was like, what did you do? And I told her what I said. And then she started laughing and the cab driver started laughing and they couldn't communicate with each other. And so from then on, we've gone to the cars that fly in the sky.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it was very funny. So that's one of my favorite memories. Oh, and I think they were closed that day. I don't even think we ever did them after
That
all
makes
that.
it even better.
Yeah.
Well, we hope that you all get a chance to create your favorite memories, eat your favorite foods, and see your favorite places in Israel. And we wish Israel a very happy 73rd birthday.
You know what would be fun, Rabbi Shana? If anybody who sees this video has a favorite memory or food or place, maybe they could email us and share them with us.
Sure.
So I want to say happy birthday, Israel. And may Israel find peace and may we find solutions and may our relationship with Israel deepen over the years. Amen. Bye.
Happy birthday, Israel.